As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the fields of Canaan, Jacob stood at the edge of his father Isaac's land, burdened by the disquiet in his heart. Deeply rooted in his covenant with God, Jacob knew that this was not merely a journey south to escape famine but a divine call to relocate to Egypt, a land filled with uncertainty. The Lord appeared to him in a vision, saying, "Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there." Genesis chapter 46 verse 3. With a trembling heart, Jacob gathered his family, the descendants of Abraham and Isaac, understanding the significance of this moment. A transformation awaited him, fraught with divine orchestration and covenantal promises. As Jacob made his way to Egypt, he paused to offer sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac, seeking divine favor and reassurance. He remembered the covenant of God with Abraham, which echoed through generations like a sacred melody. Each prayer uttered, each offering placed upon the altar was an act of deep obedience, a yearning to feel the assurance of God's presence amidst the unknown. The heartache of leaving behind the land of his fathers weighed heavily on him, yet he clung to the promise that his descendants would inherit a grand legacy. He knew that this journey was predestined, ordained from the very foundations of creation. The stars twinkled above, as if in affirmation of his unwavering faith. When he finally arrived at the borders of Egypt, the air crackled with anticipation. In the bustling streets of Lower Egypt, Jacob experienced both awe and trepidation. He longed for the familiarity of his homeland while recognizing the life-saving provisions Egypt had become. There, under its vast skies and among its people, he was about to reunite with his long-lost son Joseph, the bearer of dreams and favor. What was once veiled in loss was now brought into the light of restoration, for God had prepared this moment to fuse their destinies together again, as he unfurled his divine plan throughout generations. The sands of Egypt seemed to hold echoes of long-lost dreams as Jacob, weary from the journey, approached the palace of Pharaoh. The moment he laid eyes upon Joseph, now adorned in the robes of Egyptian authority, tears streamed down his sun-weathered face. "Is it really you, my son Joseph?" he cried, his voice breaking with overwhelming emotion. Joseph, enveloped in joy, embraced his father, feeling the weight of years of separation melt away. Their tears were not only of sorrow but of divine reunion, embodying the ultimate expression of familial love and reconciliation. Genesis chapter 46 verse 29. This moment transformed the narrative of their past hardships, reminding them both of God's intertwining providence. Following their tearful reunion, Joseph guided Jacob through the richness of the Egyptian court. He introduced his father to Pharaoh, and in that sacred exchange, Jacob blessed Pharaoh, understanding that even within a foreign land, God's chosen people could still carry a voice of blessing and purpose. Jacob acknowledged the transient nature of their existence, referencing his years as few and evil, Genesis chapter 47 verse 9. Yet, how remarkable it was that God had granted him not only the blessing of survival but of reunion, a testimony to God's unfathomable grace and faithfulness, reminding all who witnessed that blessing flows through obedience and faith. As days passed, Jacob settled in the land of Goshen, where his family thrived. Joseph ensured that the best of the land was theirs, fulfilling not only a son's duty but a powerful testament to reconciliation and grace in action. The emotional ties between father and son deepened. They chatted and shared stories of God's sovereignty over their lives. With the backdrop of flourishing fields around them, Jacob imparted stories of their ancestors, painting vivid images of God's covenant, the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob himself. This passing of the sacred torch reinforced the bonds of faith across generations, urging his sons and their descendants toward deeper communion with the Almighty. Together they bore witness to the profound beauty of God's unfolding plan amidst the tapestry of their lives. As time wove itself into the fabric of their new lives, Jacob felt the shadows of his days lengthening. He summoned Joseph and brought Ephraim and Manasseh, his grandsons, to him for the sacred rite of blessing. With ancient hands, tremulous yet steady, Jacob prepared to impart the weight of his love and the promise of their heritage. In this moment, he remembered how the Lord had transformed him from a deceiver to a prince, drawing from his own sacred history to confer God's greater purpose into the boys. The one who will be greater will be Ephraim, Jacob declared as he crossed his arms, symbolizing the divine bestowal of greatness upon the younger son. Genesis chapter 48 verse 19. The act of blessing transcended mere words. It was an invocation of divine purpose. As Jacob laid his hands upon both boys, he invoked the God of Abraham and Isaac, calling forth their destinies. This was a moment in which present and future collided, where faith transcended geography and ancestry. May they be as numerous as the fish in the sea, he astutely proclaimed, capturing the essence of God's promise, reminding them of their lineage tied to the covenant of abundance and blessing. Genesis chapter 48 verse 16. The air was thick with reverence, enveloping the family in a divine embrace, a reminder that God was intricately woven into the very fabric of their lives. Joseph witnessed the unexpected ordaining of his sons with awe and confusion. He tried to correct Jacob, to switch the hands that carried the blessing. Yet Jacob stood firm in his conviction, evidence of the mystery of God's will in choosing the least expected among them. This spiritual tension emphasized a crucial lesson, that God's ways differ from human understanding, and his wisdom surpasses all. The blessing of Ephraim, though younger, echoed the very nature of divine choice that would shape Israel's future, an eternal testament that in God's kingdom, the last shall be first. Matthew chapter 20 verse 16. The profound truth lingered. Greatness is bestowed not by birthright but through faithfulness and the grace of God. As Jacob gazed into the eyes of his grandsons, a wave of nostalgia washed over him. He reflected on the promise God had made to Abraham, the covenant of blessings and land that had traversed generations, binding his ancestry with the divine. Each blessing he uttered held weight beyond mere words. It was a reaffirmation of God's unyielding faithfulness through the trials of life. Jacob recounted the moments of struggle, the wrestling with God, seeking his path, the pain of losing Joseph, and the joy of reconciliation, all interwoven into the rich tapestry of his life. Genesis chapter 48 verse 15. His personal struggles mirrored the collective journey of Israel, reminding them that faith is forged in the fires of trials and tribulations. In the twilight of his life, Jacob's heart was a reservoir of hope and faith. He embraced the reality of mortality, yet he spoke with conviction about the promises that transcended death. I am about to be gathered to my people, he affirmed, keenly aware that his legacy would not end with his earthly journey. Genesis chapter 49 verse 29. He envisioned a future for his descendants rooted in the steadfast love of God. The blessings were not just for Ephraim and Manasseh but extended to the entire lineage, reinforcing their identity as God's chosen people, destined for greatness and purpose amid the nations. As he gathered his sons around him for their blessings, a holy silence enveloped the room. Each son received his portion, a mix of strength, vulnerability, and prophetic insight, whispering of futures fraught with challenges but filled with promise. The act of blessing became Jacob's final proclamation of faith, a call to live righteously, uphold God's covenant, and carry forward the lessons etched into their family's history. The moment served as a holy reminder that they were participants in God's unfolding drama of salvation, with their lives far greater than their individual stories, shaped by the divine hand guiding them toward eternity. Jacob's journey to Egypt culminated in a sacred legacy that reverberates through the corridors of time. The blessings upon Ephraim and Manasseh became prophetic threads woven into the narrative of Israel's fate. As the tribes emerged from this lineage, they would carry the memory of this moment, teaching future generations about God's faithfulness amidst uncertainty. The experience served as a reminder that every trial in life can lead to divine destiny, signifying the enduring promise that God never turns away from his people but continually offers his love and guidance. Genesis chapter 50 verse 20. In the unfolding of salvation history, the words spoken by Jacob resonate deeply within the Catholic faith. The teachings of the Church remind believers that, like Jacob and Joseph, we all face our own Egypts, times of exile, separation, or struggle. Yet God's promises endure. The sacrament of blessings, echoed within the life of the Church today, shows how each generation inherits the call to live in fidelity to God's will, fostering hope and love as vital tenets of the Christian life. The legacy left by Jacob teaches that we are all part of a broad narrative of faith, woven together in the tapestry of God's plan. As the faithful gather to reflect on Jacob's blessing, they find in it an eternal truth. Every act of blessing, every word of encouragement, holds the power to shape destinies. We are called to bless one another just as Jacob blessed his sons, empowering them to carry forth the torch of faith. This act of communion fosters unity, drawing believers together as a community bound by covenant, amid the trials of modern life, echoing Jacob's realization that God's blessings are eternal, free-flowing miracles that initiate paths of hope where there was none. In our own blessings, we also become vessels of divine compassion and grace, participating in and continuing the unfolding story of God's love for humanity.